to follow the recent events of getting all of the students on board and dorming in UA, we find our heroes grouped together once more as they prepare themselves in becoming the greatest heroes they can possibly become as they move in and begin a new adventure following the events of All Might and All for One. What is going on, My Hero Academia fans? Welcome to My Hero Academia Season 3 Episode 51 review entitled Moving into Dorms as we make our way into next week's exciting episode of My Hero Academia Season 3 Episode 52 as we kick off Episode 51 in a very calm and subtle way after having to follow the events of Midoriya's mom having to speak to All Might. And I really did enjoy how All Might at first told Midoriya that his mom reminded him of his predecessor, his master that came before him. And at first Midoriya was kind of shocked and saying, "What, my mom?" With All Might having to crack a joke and saying, "Well, I meant by the hair, she's very strong-willed as well," because in the last episode, I personally felt like Midoriya's mom kind of went overboard in wanting her son to become basically a bystander instead of becoming what he actually wanted to become, and that's a hero. And everything culminated in this episode because we see how everything that led to this very point leads into all the students actually moving into UA and dorming for the first time. And you can kind of understand where Midoriya is coming from alongside the rest of the students because they're all getting older. And to me personally, that reminded me of Toy Story 3. It reminded me of the typical story of the older kid having to go to college, leaving his family behind, and starting a new life. And that's what this episode reminded me of personally, is going back to movies like American Pie, going back to certain movies and TV shows that resembled and had that character or characters leave home to start a new life in a school somewhere else, which to a lot of people watching this, they could relate to because a lot of people have moved on from their homes and dorming somewhere else just to have that experience, and that's what we had here. But as everyone finally gets to the Heights Alliance in trying to go into their dorms, I love how Eraserhead is basically giving a lecture in letting everybody know that he could have expelled those that basically went against the rules to save Bakugo, even though he clearly said out of his own mouth that they were unaware in being very subconscious with their choices, that they not only put each other at risk but the lives of everyone else as well in not using their brains and analyzing every situation put in front of them, but instead he would have expelled everybody but Bakugo for the decisions and choices that the students had made before saving him, which later had led Eraserhead in warning them and saying, you have to follow the procedures and the rules given, because unless you want to break our trust again and be expelled, this is what you're going to have to do. Basically laying down the law for the kids, because the kids acted very reckless when Shigaraki and All for One and all the villains attacked, in not focusing and really empowering each other by making the right choices, but instead putting each other in harm's way. And that's not what goes into the guidelines of becoming a pro hero, especially here since the kids want to become heroes later down the line. But what's really cool about this, in my opinion, is seeing how large each student's dorm actually is, because each individual student manages to get a room of their own, and that includes lots of equipment like ACs, toilets, fridges, closets. So they basically have everything set up at the palm of their hand, and all they have to do is just attend. Of course, following these procedures and rules are going to be difficult, but each room is actually very spacious for each individual person that's going to be staying in said rooms. And speaking of said rooms, as the girls walk on over, they want to have somewhat of a room presentation for each of the boys. Now, as they walk into each of the boys' dorms, we see how Midoriya's room is filled with All Might figures, basically just fanboying out for All Might and having posters and collectibles and whatnot. So all of the other guys are technically making fun of him of being such a fanboy of All Might, but at the same time they find it pretty cool. So as we go into the other dorms, we see how Tokoyami's room is just filled with black occultic kind of things, very demonic and very gothic in nature, and even the girls were like, it's so black in here that it's scary. So he was actually embarrassed. All the boys were embarrassed because when you go into somebody's dorm that's filled with like their own personal items and things, and you're bound to be exposed for who you truly are based on what you have in your room per se. Ida's room was actually filled with books because you can tell that this guy really takes his craft and his art so serious. So his room was actually pretty cool to know that someone in here is taking things serious and not having basketball clothing around or maybe occultic kind of items or fanboy toys, but Ida is the one that I personally feel takes this UA stuff the most serious in what he has in his room. And as we begin to go to everybody else's room, in which we're not going to touch up on every single individual's room, once we get to Todoroki's room, all the girls begin to go crazy and saying the most handsome student, the student with the most potential. So as they go in his room, it's mainly a Japanese style room, and everybody seems to be confused as to why this is, and they begin to ask him questions and saying, why, you know? And Todoroki's response is saying that, well, I can sleep on the floor and do as I please, and everyone's saying, well, who remodeled it for you? And that's when he goes, well, I worked hard for it, so this is mine. And everyone's like, wow, he has a really amazing room, and they're wondering about Bakugo, because Bakugo's sleeping at this point. But I really love how the pervy kid also wanted to see the girls' room, because if it's going to be a contest to decide who has the best looking interior room, then it's only fair to judge the girls as the boys are getting judged. And he's so pervy, his name always eludes me, but he's the most perviest character in the show, and it goes to show because once his room was looked at, he kept saying, come on in, come on, let me show you my room, and nobody wanted to go in. So I felt like that was hilarious to me, because every single one of us at least know one person that's like this, very pervy, very dirty in nature. So we all have that one friend or know somebody that's like this, but nobody checked out his room. But at the same time, he insinuated and wanted to check out the girls' room for his own personal agenda and purposes. So I thought that was very clever. And by the end, the only two rooms that weren't explored was Sue and Bakugo's, which you can understand because Bakugo went to sleep and there was something up about Sue. But by the end, we finally have a winner, and the winner of having the best interior design for a room was Sato. And Sato won because of his delicious baking skills, because all the girls were so infatuated with the way he was baking those sweets, and when they walked in his room, they were just dumbfounded as to what they were eating, because they were just blown away on how good it was. So he won based on the decision of him having to be a good cook and basically delivering in that aspect of sweets. But by the end of this episode, it went from fun and amusement to sadness, because Sue basically apologized and confessed, you know, what she had said in the hospital about breaking the rules and becoming villains. So everybody basically bonded together in not only apologizing to Sue, but also coming to the realization that they can't break the rules anymore. And I really did enjoy the bond of friendship by the end of this, because we see how everybody gets together, Todoroki and Ida and everyone, including Midoriya, and aiding each other and being there for each other as they try to fix things and letting things go back to normal, because they have a huge task in front of them, and that's improving and fixing their mistakes and becoming better people and heroes in the time being while they're there. So by the end of this, personally to me, what this reminded me of was the bond that we saw in Harry Potter with Hermione, Ron, and Harry, and seeing how they were so close together. And I felt that in this episode by the end, seeing all the students surround Sue, forgiving her, hugging her, apologizing to her. Everybody basically came to grips with each other and being there for each other by the very end. And I love how Midoriya even admits this in saying that we have to make things go back to normal, we have to fix things, because becoming a hero is no easy task. So if you're expecting action in this episode, if you're expecting some sort of throwdown between heroes and villains, you're not going to get that. But as a slice of life episode, this definitely delivered, to me at least, because it told a good story in allowing all the kids to move in together. We see their personal styles in their rooms and what represents them, and we get to see an evolution between all the characters as they're slowly beginning to grow upon each other as they live there. So by the end, guys, I want to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on this episode? Did you guys hate the episode? Did you guys like the episode? Most of you guys that watch My Hero Academia really want to see action, blood, guts, and gore, as we saw with All For One and All Might, which we are going to get at some given point eventually down the line as soon as we see more of Shigaraki and what's more to come. But I want to know your thoughts down below on the slice of life episodes and everything in between. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. Once again, if you guys want me to cover more My Hero Academia content, then slap a like down below. If you guys want to watch more of the reviews, I will leave a link down in the description box below for you guys to check out and enjoy. Thank you all once again for watching, guys. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys in the next My Hero Academia episode. To me, like I said, my final thoughts is that I am really growing upon these episodes, and you don't need action, you don't need intensity to tell a good story. And if you really stop and pay attention and not cry out boring, you will see the development for each character as the episodes go on by, from last week into this week and going into next week. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Thank you all once again. Tune back in for more, and I'll check you all in the comment section below. Cue my motherfucking outro, bitch.